Well, everyone, we're live. I couldn't even get home in time. I'm in the car here doing this session. This is Norman Koshnick here for Eyes on Cricket with Norman Koshnick. This is our post-match special after every day. We've got the likes of Simon Willis and Chris Vernon here today, and they're gloating like all hell. I'm not going to say stupidly. I rather boldly said 7 for 101 by T and all that for 180. That would be England's face. But Joe Root, yet again, another century and not out on the day. Incredible. And Sipley batted very well as well. Sipley batted very well. Even Rory Burns batted well despite his stupid shot. Lawrence, I'm not sure. He may not be in another test if Crawley comes back. But I tell you what, England are 3 for 263 after a full 90 overs of play. They're in what I would call the box seat. They're in a great position in this test match. Surprisingly, the look on Kohli's face was quite remarkable. The one shot of him and Rohit Sharma looked rather like defeated in a way, which is rather unusual to see him so down. I think Chris made a comment that the likes of Ashwin didn't bowl enough at the end. I thought that was probably a valid point. All right, Simon and Chris, over to you to gloat.
Go on, Chris. All yours.
I think it's just a great start. I think that it's a great day for England. I think that there was some very clear game plans in place. I've actually just jotted down some figures, and watching it, you could tell that they had certain tactics. And if you add up, Sharma, Ashwin, and Bumrah's figures combined, 57 overs, 7 maidens, 3 for 135, just over 2 and over. And the other 2 spinners were 32 overs, 0 for 124, going at 4 and over. So there was some clear game plan there. And literally straight away, I think that Joe Root didn't play a shot to Ashwin, and then the left armour came on and he went reverse sweep, came down the wicket or drove him first ball. So no, I think England need to be wary that last time we played in Chennai, we got 480 and we lost a test. India came out and got 600 and 700. They need to make sure that this doesn't turn into 400 all out. It needs to be 550, 600 if we want to win the test, I think.
Very true. Your take, Simon?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good first day's cricket for England. But we know what Test cricket's like. It's 5 days for a reason. But if you were England, this would have been the perfect start, to start a tour in India. We talked about scoring 400, 450 in the first innings consistently. For Dom Sibley to bat all day, there's not too many English batters that have done that in Test cricket in recent times. So full credit to him, and obviously very disappointing for him to get out that last ball this evening. But Joe Root is just showing what a world-class player he is, and his record in Asia is unbelievable. I think 17 Test matches now, and he's averaging over 55, something like that, which is fantastic for an English player. So, no, full credit. Senior players have stepped up, and very much looking forward to tomorrow's game. But I think India on reflection, I think we'll look at the team selection, whether they've got that right. And I think, 2 young spinners, it just shows you that, experienced spinners are completely different to inexperienced spinners. You do get some free deliveries. And I think, back end of that middle session, will be where India think they gave England the momentum. And, the young spinners just weren't building pressure. They were leaking runs consistently. And I think they just kept Ashwin back just for the new ball, I think, because they thought he would be more penetrative with that, with a harder ball in his hand.
I mean, the first session of the day's play, it was certainly no less than even. And in fact, you'd argue, had India taken that run out on the last over, whatever it was, they would have been in front on that first session. I was quite impressed with the way India held onto that. And England were frittering away at what I thought was a good lead. But that was the last wicket to fall, the second wicket. And they played the last 2 sessions virtually, except for the last balls. They were unstoppable. And I was quite shocked at how well they played. Not so much Root, but simply I was pretty shocked. I thought he played really well. Don't you?
Yeah, I think his method, if you look at the first Test match in Sri Lanka, And then the second Test match, his method has changed. He's got a lot closer to the ball on the front foot. I think he kind of got forwards, half forwards in that first Test match, and therefore allowed the ball to spin. But he was very decisive. He got forwards and back really, really well. Kind of followed Joe Root's method. He's watched and learned from a senior player and made some changes while he was in Sri Lanka. So that's great. That's what you want young players to do from these experiences, and it's great to see.
Yeah, I think that in Sri Lanka they also had Jack Callis as the batting coach. If I don't know, he's not in India now. I think Jonathan Trott might have come in, but I mean, I'll wind up. I'm sure I'll annoy a few of the people watching, but Jack Callis rightly has a claim to be not even the greatest around, has a reasonably good stake to be the greatest batsman to ever play Test cricket. I mean, he averages more than Tendulkar, more than Lara, scored 45 Test hundreds, averaged 57, which is just phenomenal, and played a lot on pitches in South Africa that wouldn't have been as flat as a subcontinent. And, the people would disagree, and a lot of people wouldn't. And I'm not saying he is, but it has to have a proper claim. So to have a guy like that there for 2 tests sharing that knowledge is, has to have played a part as well. But I think India got their team wrong. I think that they a few people on the radio that was listening to suggested that they had to pick Sundar purely because of his batting. They had to pick someone to bat 7, and with him playing as well, they couldn't pick Kuldeep Yadav because it means that they've had three spinners turning it into the right-hander. And I think because of that, they were almost forced to play the left-arm spinner. And I think it'll be interesting because I think what England will show you is that to keep an end tight, they'll just have Anderson, Stokes, and possibly Archer bowling. India trying to keep the tight overs with their spinners, and England will go to Anderson and Archer and Stokes to tie up an end. And you're going to see 2 very different tactics with the bowling. And I think that if it's reverse swinging, Stokes, Anderson, and Archer are 3 pretty good guys to exploit that. So it's going to be good to watch, I think.
Nadeem was a severe mistake. I don't understand that at all. Why Kuldeep Yadav didn't play, regardless of which way he spins it, I don't care about that. He should have been the one to be given the go, I think. I don't understand that at all. Washington Sundar, look, in all fairness, he played well in the last test. I don't see there's any reason for not playing him. I think that was a reasonable decision. Ishant Sharma was very economical, but wasn't penetrative at all, was he? Bumrah is always the one that they rely on, and they can't rely on one bowler. And Ashwin as well. They can't rely on effectively 2 bowlers. They missed Jadeja severely, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that Sundar is I think he's playing a completely different role to the role he played in Australia. I think in Australia it was, you're going to bowl spinner, you're going to tie and end up on day one. If you bowl 20 overs, 1 for 50, job done. In India, we need you to take wickets. We need you to be more an attacking threat, and I think that's why I just don't think it worked. I think in Australia they were expecting him to tie and end up and let the 4 quicks try and take all the wickets, whereas here he needed him to be better.
I think the bottom line is they obviously had a game plan, and the game plan worked for some of the bowlers, but it didn't work for the whole bowling unit, and that becomes a problem in the heat and humidity. You could see there at times that the bowlers were getting tired. So you need the other guys to play a role, and that role basically would have been go for under 3 and over, and they couldn't do that, the 2 young spinners. And you could see there at times the captain really scratching his head. I'm sure there was some frustration there, but also pretty limited with his thinking. Once the game plan wasn't working, they didn't have too many other tricks up their sleeve.
Yeah, it's really hard because I predicted him to do a lot better, but I did think that concept of a lull or that down after a big high would occur, and they dropped their guard mentally a little bit, especially in terms of selections and this expectation they'll just roll on the same way they did in Australia, and they didn't think it through, or at least they don't appear to have thought it through. As the commentary on the side of our updates today, we can see people asking the question, how many runs is enough for England? And I think we talked, Chris and Simon, before we went on air. They need 550. 400 probably isn't enough, because if India come out smoking with the bat on this sort of pitch, which is fairly lifeless, you're going to see 600 scored for sure. Parna's joining us.
I think that looking at a few balls towards the end of the day, it looked quite a tired wicket. I think that it might start spinning quite a lot, and I think England will just want to bat once. And if it means batting till almost sort of first session, day 3, if they can, I don't think it will bother them. I think that they'll fancy the longer they can bat. I think that to literally bat India out of the game. Just say, well, if you want to go and be positive against Hess and Leach, good luck, and we can bowl you out twice.
You got 2 Yorkshiremen running the show there as well, in Chris Silverwood as head coach and the captain in Joe Root. And playing Yorkshire over the years, once they get ahead, they make sure that you don't have a sniff. So they'll be trying to make the game safe first of all, and then looking to have as much time with attacking fields as they can. So the message tonight will be very much a good first day, but plenty of work to do tomorrow with the bat.
Chris, we can't see you, by the way. I can see one eye.
Oh, no, he's fine. He's fully on.
Okay, good. All right. And someone's commenting that, Norman, have you been arrested in the back of a police paddy wagon? No, I'm not. I'm just in the car. I'm not in a paddy wagon. I can assure you.
Guys, I'm Hummer, stretch limo.
Can we get an Indian perspective now, Norman?
Yes, we can. Aparna Saini, what have you got to say for yourself?
Here we go. Look. Here we go.
I guess as the dust settles down on Rishabh Pant Gawa Heroics, here we are again on day 1. First day, another exciting test series. And, well, India always has a record of starting slow, but they'll come good. I'm sure they will.
Oh, it always happens.
Well, it might only be a little over 2 weeks since India, run off physically and mentally draining Australian tour. But yeah, I mean, the new normal ensured that they were back in the bubble in a matter of a few days. And I was actually looking at the interview of Harsha Bhogle, pointed out yesterday, India have to be careful that the glow of the amazing series win don't linger too long. Well, it seems out to be true. Well, only 2 wickets. And I don't know how far England's going to go with the runs. But they have to take some early wickets at the start of the day. Otherwise, obviously, as we know, England was hoping that they can get a bit of a lead in the first test. And they're doing pretty good. well,
the reality is...
From 4-0.
Well, part of the reality is, as we all know, until the other side bats their complete innings, we won't really know what the picture's really like. It's a great start for England. They're in the ascendancy. They've got every opportunity to score 400 plus to 500 if they continue to bat the way, especially if Joe Root's 6th round. They'll be in a 500 score mind. But India could come out and score the same score. That's the real testing point, and we'll see. That's going to be when we can really judge where this game is at. Although, hats off to England. They've done much better than I thought they were going to do, this for sure.
Yeah, it's favourable. The pitch is favourable for batsmen, for right now. In the next 3 days, I think it'll be favourable for spinners. So that might, and it takes two hours from Adelaide. I think we all learned that. It takes 2 hours to turn a test around. So
I think though the one observation I would make is that it looks a little bit on the slow side. So even if it spins, batters were able to go on the back foot and play it quite comfortably. Batters looked like they were being rushed and the ball was spinning out the surface to fielders around the bat. So that would be one thing I'm conscious of. It might spin, but if it's slow spin, then batters won't be too worried about that.
Which is what I think, Simon and I were chatting a little bit during the play, and we both sort of, Simon said and I agreed that I think that James Anderson could win England the test. I think that reverse swing bowling stump to stump, I think he's going to have a huge role to play in the side. I honestly think that he could be the game changer. I'm not saying he's going to take 12, but he'll bowl tight. Look what he did in Sri Lanka and bowling stump to stump, something that Sharma didn't do as much as he should. It was reversing. Maybe with his action and the angle and his height, he can't quite come in as close to stumps and bowl though stump to stump to look at the LBWs that maybe Anderson and possibly Archer can do as well.
Okay. See, look, I still maintain, I know you're not going to like to hear this, Chris, if they had both Broad and Anderson in this match bowling stump to stump, they'd clean it up with greater certainty. I know Jofra Archer's got the pace, but those two would exploit these conditions really well together. And I still think that's a lacking.
Yeah, I just don't think the balance is the side right on this wicket. I just don't think I just don't think you need both. And I don't know what Simon and Aparna's thoughts are, but they want to play two spinners. Root's a decent third spin option, but he always seems a fairly reluctant bowler, although he always seems to love it when he does it. But he hasn't bowled as much. I think every England fan would say that Joe Root should bowl more than he does. But I just don't think that Broad. We could sit here and say after the test, if we get a draw and Anderson takes 10 for that, Broad should have played. But I still think I think England picked the right side. I will stick by that at the moment for sure.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Best bowls. It's going to be a really big challenge for him. Again, that inexperience and nerves bowling to world-class players is a different environment to bowling against Sri Lanka. So that's going to be interesting to see. I agree from a seam point of view. I'm happy with the seam unit. I think on flat pitches from a seam bowling point of view, you've either got to be able to reverse the ball or you've got to have pace. And I think that's what England have got in their attack. They've got guys who can reverse swing it and can bowl 90 miles an hour plus. So for me, horses for courses. Broad will play at some stage during this Test series. I'm sure that it will make an impact.
Aparna, we're getting some comments. People are thinking your prediction of 4-0 is not going to happen. These are Indian supporters, I thought.
Well, guys, one message: don't give up. I know England has actually fought hard to once again put themselves, on top in the opening test today at the day one. But India is still yet to bat, as we said. There's 2 innings in a test. We've got 4 match series. Don't give up. And India has always been a game changer. I mean, what they did at Gava, all the way from Adelaide to Gava, I mean, that was unexpected. So you never know.
That's true. It's very true. We can't forget that.
So we got, as I said in the comments, England got 477 and lost by an innings last time. So they've got a lot of work to do. And we said this morning on the chat, we said yesterday that England would have wanted to come out and made a positive statement. And I think they've done that. I think that we said that the lot rides in the first test in order to, I think they've ruffled a few feathers today. But they need to make sure that they put the foot on the throat and they don't take it off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and at one stage, the 2 batsmen fetched 3 boundaries in the space of 8 deliveries. That's when I think it was Washington and Nadeem were bowling. And Kohli eventually had to turn back to Bumrah and Ashwin. So they've got good spinners in the bowling lineup, and the pitch, as I said today, it's favourable for batsmen. So there's another 2-3 days. This can be a total turnaround. You never know.
It's also quite interesting looking at the fixtures. I think the next test starts on the 13th. So there's 3-day turnaround. England are quite lucky that they're going to swap Anderson. If Anderson bowls 50 overs, Broad will come in, 500 test wickets. Stokes won't bowl much. Archer just seems to literally walk in and bowl 100 mile an hour. If India do 150 overs in the dirt here in the field, and Bumrah and Ishant bowl a lot, are they going to come in and be able to bowl in the next test? India haven't got a lot of high quality established seamers in that squad after Bumrah and Sharma, arguably. If one of those has to drop out, they've got to play Siraj. And all of a sudden, if you're only going to play those two seamers with Siraj, are they leaving the seam option slightly light? And they might want to. I think they've got to bring Pandya in for the next test. I think that he's a X-factor player, and I mean he's not quite as good as Ben Stokes, but a guy like that just balances that side out perfectly, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a bit amazing that they didn't put Pandya in the side. I'm disappointed for that reason. Kohli, the other, I think, should have been in there, and this Nadeem I'm just a bit confused with what went on there. I was even more confused. I didn't realise he played a test before either, which was news to me. I must have missed that. Aparna, what were you going to say?
Even Akshar Patel, I think he's got injury, so he was replaced with another left-arm spinner.
Yeah, Aksa Patel, you mean? Yeah.
His name is Shahbaz. I never knew that he made his debut actually in end of 2019.
It's just a confidence thing for England. You know, if they can get out this test and Ashwin doesn't do much, they're going to have to. You know, I think that it rattles a few of the Indians. You know, I think the Indian bowling attack, Bumrah is largely unproven in India, and he's a quality bowler. Sharma's obviously good, but they're going to rely on Ashwin. And if you look at all the comments when Simon put up on Facebook who's going to be leading wicket taker, 90% it's Ashwin. If he comes out of this test with 2 or 3 wickets and Root looks like he's playing him really easily, I think that poses a problem for India because they're relying on him massively. And if Bumrah and Sharma bowl loads of overs in this test, they might not be totally fresh for the next one. And I think England's batters, regardless, there's going to be a lot of confidence there if they can avoid Ashwin taking loads of wickets.
Yeah, well, confident ones, I guess, team England will be pretty pleased after winning in Sri Lanka. But like the skipper Root mentioned, even India are a firm favourites and pressure is on them, especially after the recent performance, what they've done at Goa. So I think it's not fair to say that now everything has gone and then England is in better position. But one day doesn't change anything. That's my belief. Hopefully, fingers crossed, some early wickets at the start of the day would be good.
One session can change a test match or lose a test match. You know, I've seen many games of cricket where teams have dominated and then suddenly one mad session and the game can turn. So, you know, it's day one. It's been a really good start for England. India are the best team in the world at the moment. And, you know, they're going to be licking their wounds tonight. And I'm sure some strong words. And they'll be coming out tomorrow wanting to take some quick wickets in the morning session. There's a new batter at the crease. You know, Root starts another day. And anything can happen in that first hour. England lose 2 quick wickets. And the score looks very different. And that'll be at the forefront of England's mind is look at the scoreboard and add 2 wickets to it. Because that keeps you focused and keeps you, you know, making sure you don't play any shots like Rory Burns, basically.
I think the first hour tomorrow morning, probably the first half an hour is crucial. If Root and Stokes are still there at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning and Root's on 140 and Stokes is on 15-20, I think it could be a long day for India because that pitch looks pretty flat. And the one thing that those 2 blokes won't do is score slowly. I think Root had 8 of 45 balls and finished on 130 of 190 balls. So he'll score quickly. And if we can get to 400 for 4 and Josh Buttler walks in against 2 fairly sort of green spinners and a tired pace attack, you know, that scoreboard can go up quite quickly. But, you know, being an England fan and a pretty optimistic one, and Simon will know exactly how I feel, this could easily be 340 all out. But we're not, I don't think we're sitting here saying England win the series, but I think from what we've seen so far is that England aren't here just to take part. I think that they're keen to, you know, put a mark on it, and I think they did that today so far.
I'm intrigued with the tactics, actually. You know, just watching the way that Ashwin and that bowled at Root, you know, they would have seen him play in Sri Lanka. I'm surprised that they didn't use similar tactics that they used to Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne in Australia. You know, they bowl very straight to those 2 guys with a packed leg side field. You know, I wouldn't hesitate at using that tactic to Root, you know, because he looks to get back and cut a lot of the time or clip and sweep on the leg side. So if you can pack the leg side and bowl to it, you know, you might just dry him up a little bit. And, you know, I think they've got to think a little bit outside the box compared to what they did today.
Yeah, but even in the big league, I mean, England was extremely cautious to begin with. Virat Kohli was straight went to Jasprit Bumrah and Ashwin and his 2 best bowlers. Even though that the 2 best bowlers, 2 best batsmen actually, struggled against Ashwin today as well. So they eventually managed in the first hour to survive. But, well, we were expecting with the second new ball might be different and would get some sort of wickets, but...
Do you think they just survived in the first hour? I thought the only time that England looked in danger all day was when Burns got out, Lawrence came in, and probably for 10, 15 minutes either side of lunch. When Burns got out, I didn't, you know, I sat and watched every ball. I didn't think that England looked like getting out at all. I know that Pant dropped a really hard chance down leg side, but I wasn't sitting there going, geez, we're in trouble here. I was sat there going, I think I messaged Wilco and said, this is flat. That these boys could cash in today. And so, Twins always a threat, and they obviously had a game plan to how to play them. But the only time England looked in any trouble all day was probably half an hour either side of lunch, and they got through that.
Yeah, I think first innings for both teams, history would tell you that it's a decent batting pitch. It's how many you get in the first innings that's crucial. How big you go in the first innings, because then the wicket does deteriorate. So, you just got to make hay while the sun shines, as they say. So you can't have too many runs, I would imagine, in this game.
Yeah, the way that Bumrah to me bowled quite well today. I don't think he bowled badly at all.
Even Ashwin.
Yeah.
I just think they needed. I think that Bumrah. I think that those guys, and England proved it today beautifully. Look at the bowling stats. Kohli didn't want to bowl Bumrah in tandem with one of the other spinners. I think if you look all day, Bumrah always bowled with Sharma or Ashwin, and pretty much they all mixed around together, because I don't think he trusted the other two to tie and end up. What's the point in Sharma running in, going at 1 and over if they're going at 5s at the other end? So I thought his only chance of trying to build pressure was he had to bowl them together and try and sneak a wicket. And I think England sussed it. I think that they played it perfectly, really.
But that for me really questions the selection.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he hasn't got faith to throw these guys the ball, then what are they doing in the team?
Exactly.
That's what it looked like for me.
It's a bowling unit. You pick bowlers to build pressure at that level. If you're not taking wickets, then the next best thing is a dot ball. And, you should have the capability to do that more consistently at international level.
So can you explain to me why Kuldeep Yadav has not been selected? He hasn't been selected for the entire Australian series, and now not in this test. What's going on there? Why?
Well, I think it's to do with the makeup of the side. I think that they needed Sundar's batting, and I don't think they wanted to pick 3 spinners turning it into the bat. I think if Jadeja would have been fit, I think that Kuldeep would have played with Jadeja and Ashwin. And potentially, I think that he would have been more chance to play because they could have had the Jadeja turning it away from the bat, and Sibley struggled. Historically, right-handers struggle more against the ball turning away, and I think that the 3 spinners turning it in.
But look, I grant that it's the old story with opening batter should be left and right-hander, and you've got to keep that combination. But if you're so rigid with that choice making, it's not going to be necessarily the only way you should play a game. I think you should not necessarily follow that tactic to the letter. Again, Australia, for example, must have a left-hand, right-hand batting combination. And what if you can't get it? Well, then put 2 right-handers in. In the case you're talking about spinning away or against into the player, to me, just if they're a good enough bowler, still put them on. I don't think it's conclusive to have that so-called perfect scientific way of looking at the way a team is selected. I think it has...
Did you say he's been bowling a lot in the nets?
Yes, tremendously.
So all I can read from the lines is that maybe he's not bowling very well. That they're bowling him in the nets a lot to try and get him into form, and the captain's coming out and saying he ain't doing what he used to do. That's all I can think of, because otherwise, any wrist spinner that's reasonable, you're going to pick him, because if he can't knock over the top order, he'll certainly take 1 or 2 in the first innings down the order with your lower order batsmen. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, then, okay, explain to me why you select a guy in the squad if you keep overlooking him and putting someone out of left field into the squad and putting him over. That is demoralising for Kuldeep. For one. Secondly, it doesn't make any sense at all. A person in the squad should be in the pecking order next to go, regardless of the combinations. That's what I would think logically. Otherwise, why are you picking him at all?
I just think they went for squad for team balance. I think that's the only reason they did it. I don't think that they wanted to. If they don't pick Sundar, you've got Ashwin at 7, and then a load of bunnies and rabbits at 8, 9, 10, 11. I think that's too long a tail. I think that the batting and that all-rounder slot played a key factor in that.
But that's the Indian top 6 are that good. I wouldn't be that concerned. I think the Indian top 6, if they fire, which they should, will pile on the runs just at that level of the order. That's my thoughts. I think that.
I have a question. Why do you think, and I think I know the answer, why do you think that the Nadeem and Chahar were added to the squad yesterday?
Well,
It's
first
because
and
they knew-
foremost,
It's because they knew Axar Patel was injured, and if he wasn't injured, they would have played Kuldeep, because Axar can bat a 7 and bowl left arm and turn it away. Axar gets injured, they thinking we need someone to bat who bowls off spin, so they've added 2 spinners that turn it away from the right hander. That logically makes sense, and I think that's why they added him late, because they knew Patel was probably injured last night, and they thought we need to pick a spinner that turns it away from the bat. And I think that, and I bet you if we spoke to Ravi Shastri and Kohli, I bet 2 days ago their side would have been Axar Patel and Kuldeep Yadav with Ashwin.
no, look, I totally get it, and I'm pretty sure we'll hear from Shastri and or Kohli in the post-press meetings. I haven't received them yet, but I'm sure they'll be along those lines, because they're going to be hit with that very question, I'm pretty sure. Why do you keep overlooking Kohli? Regardless of the logic behind it, you still have to look at the perceptions of a player in a squad that keeps getting overlooked, not only here, but in Australia. Anyway, Aparna, lovely backdrop you got there. Tell us what your thought. Are you severely unhappy, or are you quietly still confident?
You're giving me a chance to change my prediction.
That doesn't sound confident.
No, I was about to say I'm watching my prediction because I still have hopes. I mean, it wouldn't be anything compared to what we saw in Australia, but yeah, it could be a comeback. Yeah,
So you're hoping to draw first Test match then, Aparna, are you? Like I predicted.
Even in Australia, if you look at all the series, may it be ODI, T20, Test match, India has a track record that usually doesn't win the first match. All it'll be a draw, right? They don't. I don't know why. Mostly, I'm not sure the statistics, but they don't. It's like a superstitious thing for Indian, and then they just win the series and see you later.
I think that's a fair comment, Norm. I think, we can all remember the quotes after the first Test match in Australia from some of the great pundits in the game. And, this is going to be a very interesting series. It's started off beautifully for everyone that loves Test cricket, that is for sure.
I think that England will be sat there tonight, probably in the dressing room. I think before the series, they'd have said, we can win this, we want to win this. I think they'll be sat there tonight going, let's win this test. If England win this test, there's doubts over India's bowling. If England can win the test and then win the toss in the next test and go out and put 450 on the board again, there's a lot of pressure. And I still think India are favourites for the series, of course I do. And it could easily just fall. We could be sat here tomorrow. Me and Simon could be head in the sand. We could be crying into our glass of water. But I think that England will be sat there tonight going, if we can win this test, if we can really put in a performance here, that ruffles some feathers, because and we can go out and get a big score in the next test. There's a big pressure there, I think if England can match India with the batting, then it makes the series very interesting. And Root and Sibley look like they're up for it. And Burns, I know he played a rubbish shot, but he looked good. Stokes is probably, I think he's one of our, technically he's up there with Root. He's a very fine cricketer. Only averages 38, but that's going upwards all the time. And if England can match top 6 man for man with the runs, then this could be a very interesting series.
The state of the ball, I think at the 50th, 60th, it looked like a piece of soap.
They've changed, haven't they? It's a new reconstructed, toughened up SG ball with a bigger seam. I think they're trying to go for a more Duke's style ball to hold up more. That's what they're saying on the commentary. So they've gone, it's a more pronounced seam, which, happy days. I don't think Jimmy's going to, and Jofra is going to be sat there going, oh no, bigger seam on a ball. What a shame. I think that's, I think that's, and Broad running in next test, bowling his cutters and his woody bowls. I think that just has to benefit England as well. I'm not saying it's going to make a big difference, but you produce a ball that's more like a Duke's when England are touring and using it for the first time when England tour. It just seems an odd decision, but there we go.
Aparna, you're in the middle of saying something?
Yeah, there have been a lot of talks about this has been, so people got so much high hopes about this series, and I think it's going to be great. Comparing it to Ashes, because I think it's been last time something like this was 2009, something. I'm not sure about the stats, I'll check. but they've been comparing. Do you think, Norman, should we compare this India versus England series as something so grand, Ashes?
Well, it's pretty obvious now that India, whether they're playing Australia or for that matter England, the series is more pronounced. The 4-test series will become 5, especially in Australia. And that's Ashes like in itself. And that's where Test cricket's going to head. India will deserve to have 5 tests in a series, whether it's against England or Australia. Facts allow that to happen. So, yes, I think it will be. It may not be called Ashes. It might be just called dust.
I think the big boys might even like 6, Norman, from what I've heard.
Yep.
India,
That's
Australia, India, Australia, and India, England.
Well, do you not think that's a problem in World Cricket? Do you not think it's a problem that the 3 best sides, the 3 richest sides, are saying, well, you know what, we're just going to play 5 Test match series. We've got New Zealand touring here, were ranked, I don't know if they still are over Christmas, as the #1 team. They're all playing a 2 Test series. You know, are the likes of Sri Lanka, the West Indies, South Africa, who haven't got as much money, haven't got the resources, haven't got the pulling power money-wise, are they going to be left behind, and it's just going to turn into England, Australia, and India World Championships?
Well, New Zealand warrants more tests. There's no doubt about that. They're playing well enough to deserve it, and they should probably demand it. If they win the World Test Championship in June, they should be able to command that situation, don't you think?
The big issue here is, because I was involved in the whole round of World Test Championship negotiations, it's the home boards that make the offer. Okay, so the home boards have to pay for the Test series. So to have a 5 Test series in some countries, if you don't think you're going to be competitive, you actually lose an absolute fortune. So that's why there are a lot of countries that like the 2 tests, but you'll see that they'll play a lot more one-day cricket because commercially it's a better income stream for them. So that's always the debate at the moment. With it's down to finance, I think, really more than anything else.
Do you think something needs to be done about that? I mean, the West Indies are falling apart. I mean, I don't know whether the COVID situation has impacted the side that they've taken to Bangladesh. I think it probably has, but I look through that Test side today, and I think I recognise Craig Brathwaite and Rakeem Cornwall, only because he's a kind of a different figure to see, you know, playing Test cricket. Is that a problem?
I'm on his side. I think being chubby's good.
Oh, I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, he's not some. Is that a problem? Oh, the West Indies of the 80s were the best Test side in the world by miles. Now they want to go and play basketball and baseball because that's where the big American, the money is and the sports are. And is it an issue that needs to be addressed by the ICC or the English Cricket Board or the Australian Cricket Board? Do we need to pump some money into these countries to make sure cricket stays as a world sport, not just 3 rich, the 3 big nations?
Absolutely, it's a fait accompli. That's what should happen. The reality is you can't have, the West Indies with a makeshift side because half of them are playing T10 cricket in Abu Dhabi, or they're in the BBL or the IPL. They're all over the joint. They're in even the CPL gets better standard of players in their own country. It is embarrassing. That West Indies team is a joke. Bangladesh are seemingly having it pretty easy there. It's disgusting. It's not COVID related at all because their players are all over the world. So, there's no excuses. It's money, as you said.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, they're professional. They're doing, and as much as we like to sit here and say we love the game, ultimately they're doing their job. And I've got good friends, and Simon knows the same guys that I do. And your career as a professional sportsman, if you're lucky, you get to 35. So all of a sudden, why would you go and play for the West Indies and earn, say, 20,000 a year playing Test cricket when you're going to be probably procked or have no, out by yourself when you're 35, when you can go and earn 100 grand a year playing the same game, just in different, probably more glamorous parts of the world? You're not putting your body through as much stress in 45 degrees in Chennai running in. You're playing 10 overs and whacking a ball about. I know you can't blame these guys for looking after themselves and looking after their families. It's their job at the end of the day. And
I understand that. All right, guys, we've gone a good 40 minutes today. Considering the state of the match, we've got a long series. and I think Chris, you and I want to be up in the morning doing things as well.
Only when England's doing well.
I didn't say that. That's got nothing to do with it. Okay, just quickly, guys, on tomorrow with 3 for 263. England should be able to get as close as they can to 500 as they want. What's your predictions on scores tomorrow?
Shall I go?
I'll say 5+.
I think England will be 500 all out, and we'll have India 15 or 20 for 1 at the close.
Write that down, please, Chris.
I'll watch it back. I won't forget. But I think England will want to bat till lunch on day 3 if they can. I don't think that they'll have any interest in declaring. I think that they'll just say India got to chase. India have to chase this series for the World Test Championships. I think if India win 2-1 or 1-0, then they don't go through. The Aussies go through, and it's a bit of a shame for us that we're sat here going, if we compete but lose a series, the Aussies go and play at Lords in the Test Championship final. I think that's a bit of a kick in the gut for them. But India have to make the play in the series, so England will have no interest in batting twice if they can help it.
So that won't happen.
450 all out, England. India, 50 for none.
What was it, Simon? 460 or 360?
450 all out, England. And then India, 50 for none at the end of play.
Okay. A partner will say England all out for 272.
No, but 400. But I guess either that or lunch break, India might come to play. I hope so. Otherwise, we are in very much trouble.
As I said, the Stokes route is huge. If England get through that first 40 minutes tomorrow, it could be a lot of runs scored tomorrow.
You never know.
Because they won't hang about.
They've shown their record of being unpredictable. We have to acknowledge that, I think.
Yeah, true.
Definitely.
England has played brilliantly with Sri Lanka, but this series, in all honesty, no matter how good this test match or even the series stands out to be, the comparison with the series win in Australia is going to be inevitable. So, considering that, coming back from there, this one day, I don't think so. I would be judging on that basis.
Interesting question. Norman touched on it when he asked Aparna about the Ashes and India. Do you think if you said to Joe Root and Chris Silverwood now, you can win this series or you can win the Ashes, you can only pick one, which do you think they would choose?
Oh, that's a great question.
I think they would say, well, we would want to go down under, and I think we'd want to win the Ashes in Australia. But I think if you speak to Alistair Cook and those guys who won the 2011 Ashes in Australia, I think they say that that's probably what they'll be remembered for. But it was a tougher series to win in India. But you say the Ashes is the pinnacle for, it's like Arsenal Tottenham. For an Arsenal fan, it's the Tottenham game. I think for England, I think the Ashes is the one, isn't it? But what do you think?
No, look, it's especially because it's 5 tests.
Mm-hmm.
That's immediately a 4-test series won't match a 5-test series, no matter what. It's the way that's the major problem here. If this was a 5-test series, it wouldn't be the Ashes, of course, but it may become something over time that would be, somewhat the equivalent of it. So no, the Ashes has got the tradition. It's got the 5 tests at the moment. It used to be 6 at one stage, I can recall. But anyway, the reality is, I think you're right, but it's becoming more and more obvious that they need to have 5 tests. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there.
What's your prediction, Norman?
My prediction?
After your sterling effort today.
Well, it's certainly more than 701, that's for sure. I would say they're going to be 7 for 450 at a stage tomorrow. They won't declare, but I'll go for 7 for 450. So I'll up the 7 for 101 to 7 for 450. They may even end the second day's play at that score.
About tea? That means they'll only score 190 runs in the day. There's no way that Root, Stokes, Butler, and Pope score less than 2 and over.
I'll make it 7 for 500 in the day. How about that?
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Right.
Norman.
Good.
Good.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Norman.
Appreciate it. All right,
Cheers,
guys.
guys.
So
See you in the
I'll
morning.
see you in the morning, Chris. All right, guys. Thanks, guys. Okay, this is
India.
Norman. Go India. Yes, go India. Thanks, everyone. This is Norman Kosnick from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kosnick. We're going to call it quits here. We've had a great day. England has certainly prospered, but India, until they bat, we won't really know what's going on there. So thanks, guys. All the best. Talk soon.
Cheers, guys. Up the English.